Hello, I'm Steve Matthews and this is the Masked Amp YouTube channel. If you find these videos informative or interesting, please consider liking and following. I've recently read Oliver Sacks's excellent book Hallucinations. It contains a wide range of accounts of different medical conditions that can produce hallucinations or hallucinatory experiences. As Sacks says, in the popular imagination, hallucinatory voices are almost synonymous with schizophrenia, a great misconception, for most people who do hear voices are not schizophrenic. In fact, most of the conditions he writes about do not amount to mental illness at all. One such example is Charles Bonnet Syndrome, where sufferers can experience very vivid visual hallucinations. For them, the condition is a result of sight impairment, and Sacks discusses a range of conditions or situations that produce hallucinations of various types as a result of sensory deprivation of various kinds, ranging from physical states such as blindness to self-imposed states of sensory deprivation such as immersion in tanks of warm salt water, where one can lie in a state of suspension and with the entire absence of external stimuli. It appears that when the conscious brain has nothing to do, it can create often complex and elaborate but completely unreal visual and auditory environments. One of the crucial distinctions between hallucinations arising from physical causes and those experienced by people with psychosis is that the people experiencing these phenomena have insight and recognise them not to be real and don't have any accompanying delusions. One of Sacks's conclusions appears to be that hallucinations can be experienced by anyone as a normal part of life experience, whether as a result of some physical process such as migraine or epilepsy, or as an entirely normal part of the functioning of the brain, such as hypnagogic hallucinations, hearing or seeing something when about to fall asleep, or sleep paralysis, which can occur when someone is waking up from sleep, during which time the person can believe themselves to be awake when in fact they are still asleep. The fact that experiencing hallucinations does not invariably mean that someone is mentally ill is an important factor to consider when assessing people's mental health, whether under the Mental Health Act or as a standard mental health assessment. And it's important to keep an open mind and to look for alternative explanations. When I worked in a community mental health team, we conducted standard assessments which included the question, have you ever heard a voice when there has been no one around? Probably around 15% of those I asked answered that they did, but hardly any of them appeared to be psychotic. One woman told me that every day as she walked with her child to school, she would hear a voice calling her name at a particular point on the journey. I asked her what she did about it. Oh, she said, I decided to take a different route to school and I never heard the voice again. I always tried to be open-minded when I was listening to patients telling me about their experiences. Sometimes when someone says what someone says may seem so unlikely as to be a sign of mental disorder, but which turns out later to be true. One example was Edna, a lady in her late 80s who lived in an old semi-detached flint cottage in the town where I worked. She complained to her doctor that she kept hearing strange noises in her house and feared that the house was haunted. Concerned that she was experiencing auditory hallucinations, the doctor arranged for an older people's mental health nurse to visit her. Edna was insistent that she was indeed hearing strange noises. She knew they were in the house, but could not identify where they were coming from. However, As no untoward sounds were apparent while the nurse was there, the nurse became convinced that the only explanation was that Edna had dementia. He persuaded her to be admitted to hospital for further assessment. A few days later, the nurse went to her house to collect some personal effects for her. While there, he was startled to hear inexplicable noises emanating from somewhere within the cottage, when he knew that there was no one else in the property. It eventually transpired that the two cottages both had cellars, although Edna's cellar was not accessible from her house. The next door neighbour had knocked his own cellar through into the ladies' cellar and had been converting it into additional accommodation for himself. Edna had been hearing her neighbour's DIY activities directly beneath her feet. Well, if you have been, thank you for watching.